got 5, 16, 19, 21, 33, and 10. Check results. You remember?
For the day, Doctor Way 290. I don't know what. I was actually doing quite well to get back on my streak. I just paused myself there, I halted myself there because you know when like you speak for the first time and you record it and you listen to yourself back and it's like, is octaves the right word? You're like 19 octaves higher than you thought. Uh, I had that realization years ago. Now what happened? Listen to it back. Oh my god, you're speaking ridiculously quick. Listen to it back, and so I can just about make out what I'm saying. And also in the moment, I don't feel like this is that quick. Like I'll be talking kind of this quick, and this will be happening, and this and that. But then it's like, you know, let alone people from a different country. If I sometimes you'll be watching something and people will be from like a different borough, and you're like, what the fuck are they saying? They're like, Essex is only probably 40 minutes, probably like a 40-minute drive from here. People will sound miles apart. They will sound very different there. And if they were speaking quick on a podcast, maybe, I wouldn't quite be able to hear what they say. Is this now too slow? Now I'm making a conscious effort to be slower. Now in person right now, I feel like I am like ridiculously slow, but maybe after the fact it won't be. But right now, like I'm taking big pauses in between everything I'm saying, and it's very obvious. I got a list here of about 14 things because I missed a few days because I accidentally starved myself. Basically, as you can see, I'm quite a skinny individual. Um, New year, new me. Always at the end of the year. This shirt's hanging off me. I feel like I accidentally starved myself, and whatever the version is for drinking, thirsted myself. No, that sounds like that would be weird and vain. No, thirsted would be I accidentally did both to myself. To a point where I woke up and I kind of felt like my whole like the lactic acid build up when you play sports and you get home and you feel like you're gonna get cramp. I had that feeling, but from doing nothing, just from waking up, and like lightheaded every time I stood up, and I basically put it down to the fact that I was like, wait, when was the last time I actually ate a proper meal or anything, or like drank more than like 200 milliliters of water in a day? And I'm like, oh god, I've actually not looked after myself for this past probably 5 days, and I'm now physically dying before my eyes. I accidentally didn't put the batteries into charge, and I did check once my BMI to see if I was like underweight, overweight, the right way, and like I expected it to say I was a lot more underweight than I actually was. I don't know if it actually did say I was, which kind of makes me just think, what's going on here? Because like I think technically my weight for my age would be fine, but because I'm like taller than average, it stretches out. You probably need to put on more. So you know I don't know. I feel like it said average or maybe like just below, which feels wrong for just how I feel sometimes. It's like if I don't, I feel like sometimes you should be able to miss a meal and not feel like you're gonna fucking, collapse. But I feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm fucking walking that fine line, boys and girls. Um, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. 2024 is around the corner. I don't know why I'm like kind of like metaphorically milli rocking, like as I say all I don't know, whenever I talk about like a new year, I always feel like I gotta put on this like new year, new me, bro. I gotta put on like this facade, like, New Year's around the corner, we're gonna hit it this year. Cause I feel like that's just the kind of like prism, that's the kind of fucking lens people look at people who do New Year's resolutions, which is unfair, I think. You know, there ain't nothing wrong. I actually like a New Year's resolution. I think it's a bit of fun. You stick to it for a bit, you drop it off. That's fine. But some things you don't. I'm still doing this, and that was kind of a New Year's resolution, even though I started it technically 23rd of December, which is soon. So I technically started it before the New Year. But that was kind of a New Year's resolution. Duolingo. I don't actually think that. Did I start that? Actually, I'm not sure if these are New Year's resolutions. These are just hobbies. This is what people argue. It's that what's the point in doing it at the beginning of the year? You can just start hobbies whenever you want. And to speak to that, this would be an example of that. And so with the whole trying to learn French thing, and I actually think my streak is like 230 at the moment. So like, yeah, that would mean we're not close to a year. it would mean that I started it probably around March time or something. So have I kept up anything? I can't. It's usually gym related or like gaining, not even actually trying to gain muscle, but just weight. I don't. I can obviously say I haven't stuck to that. Anything else? Probably not. So, but hey, maybe my New Year's resolution will be to stick to my New Year's resolutions more. See, there's always fun different ways we can reverse it. Yeah, like I got like a whole list of things that I need to go through because things built up. It wasn't like things weren't even happening. It was more just like I was a puddle on the ground. So I missed all the things. But this wasn't. This is a more thing that's at my interest. We're having a little. Is introspective the right word? I don't know, but it sounds long and it sounds good. So we're going to use it now. We're having a bit of a different kind of ep. Oh my God, we're thinking about different issues. I was listening to a podcast, Chunks and Philly, did Angry Ginge on, because I've basically became a bit of an Angry Ginge. I've become a bit obsessed. I'm not stalking him. I've not found out where he lives. I've not dyed my hair orange and sort of committed to the lookalike lifestyle. I've not made any TikToks. I mean, I've not. When I say obsessed, all I mean is I've watched. I'm basically it's 90% of what I'm watching, because I'm like that. When I fall hard. But yeah, no, it's like one of those things. You see clips. Oh, someone's kind of blowing up at the moment. It seems like, you kind of just always like that. You're kind of like, whatever. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, you know what? This is actually kind of entertaining. And because they're streams and they're usually like every day, like 9 hours long, you kind of just spend your whole life watching that. And anyway, he's kind of cooked up this bromance with Philly. And I always love a friendship that looks like it's like, like two, Nepali guys, I believe that's what you call people from Nepal, who grew up together in Nepal. I mean, there is something actually nice to be said for that. Like, oh, we've known each other since 4 years old, and there's still stuff we still stories we find out on the pod or whatever. That because there is another podcast I listened to called the Red Flags podcast, and they have a kind of situation like that. But I feel like there's also something to be said. It's like this person's from this place, this person's from this place. He looks like that. He looks like that. You would never think that these two would, not fuck, but get along. It's a cool little spanner in the works. Dog. So it was Angry Ginger on this podcast talking about. But to be honest, they wasn't actually talking about this. It was like a 10-minute thing, and actually, this will bleed into something else. Where it's like the accusatory, everyone's a good guy, everyone's calling out everyone else and this and that, and basically they got onto like the topic of Angry Ginger's background, the nitty gritty. Okay, let's find out the origin story. What makes Ginge tick? And he asked him, "Do you think you grew up poor? Do you consider yourself poor?" And he was like, "Yeah, I would say I grew up poor." And then Philly said, "That's interesting, because I would say you can only really be poor. You can't really be poor in this country, right?" Which I feel like actually, at first listen, for the first split second, it's the kind of phrase you would hear at one point in time, and that would make you sound like a good person. And this is the crazy thing. One point in time in a not so distant past, saying something like that would actually make you sound like a good person, like more selfless, like more grateful about your situation. Like you could be living in a poor situation in this country, and then to step out of it and be like, I know, but it'd be way worse if I was in like a third world country or whatever, right? Once upon a time, that's the outlook people would have on it, and maybe that's like the outlook he was. That's probably like the place he was coming from when saying it. But now, obviously, and also like that's the intentions probably is what. Because what else would the intentions be? Obviously, he's not trying to put negative intentions onto a public podcast that he's putting out to make himself look bad. So obviously, there's the intentions are meant to be positive. Chunks then says back, "Well, no, it's all relative, and obviously not, and there's obviously poor people." And then, like, very quickly, he's like, "Yeah, that's true, good point." And then they move on, right? And it's like, but you look at the TikTok comments, you can't just say, a single point, and whether the point is right or wrong or whatever, that you can't have a conversation and say, it's not like he's like a politician. He was standing up with a pre-written script on the podium saying, you can't be poor if you live in this country, you know? People saying Philly is so out of touch. It's like, here's the thing, you know. People love to call people out of touch the second they say anything. It's, oh my god, that person is so out of touch. And it's like, you know, it's just that it's honestly one of the most overused words of like probably 2022, maybe 2023. It really started like the whole Molly May, that whole thing, which, you know, the 10 hours in a day, which at least maybe there's a bit more of a reason, because she actually did go on a platform and did go and put her her post out or whatever and say, you know, change my mind type thing. Like any little thing now, it's like, oh, that person is so out of touch. That person is so out of touch. And it's like the people who say that, you know, 5 seconds later, like they'll start making TikToks being like, you know, calling out people. Like they'll start making TikToks like, hey guys, exposing Philly. Philly's so out of touch. Right, so they start to blow up. They start to now make money off of TikTok. Couple minutes later, they're like flexing rollies and stuff from TikTok money, right? And they're like a completely different person. It's like all of a sudden, it's like, okay, you know what I mean? You can be, it's just like, it's so ridiculous. And also, it's like, you see both sides of the argument. Yeah, third world country. I have to do the things when I say that, because I actually think, you know, again, saying that is like kind of not ideal these days. But like, you know, a country like, you know, Ghana, Congo, many places maybe in like just Central Africa, right? West Africa places, is what people refer to when they just say Africa, right? Or like, you know, Asia in terms of like parts of India, parts of you know, some of these countries, right? That's what, parts of Colombia, parts of this and that, right? Philly's from Colombia. Said he was born there, moved over at a pretty young age, whatever, moved back for a couple of years. This is what he said, right? So like obviously he's seen, I would assume, both sides of things. And it's like, let's just talk about the favelas, for example, right? For example, you might, his kind of first thought, as he said out of his mouth, was like, you know, you might be poor here or whatever, this and that, but you got a house and you're over your head and it's well built and this and that, and you compare it to maybe people living in the favelas, and it's like, okay, can you really be poor compared? And it's like, okay, I get that point, especially if it's like in this country, if you're poor, it's not the best systems in place for a lot of things, but like, you might be open to things like benefits, things like that, which in other country you maybe you'll not be able to. But also on the flip side of that, you know, if you go on a podcast saying you can't be poor in this country and a lot of people are not doing well and struggling, then you're going to get people riled up and angry. And there's probably a lot more of a mental struggle and stress from being poor, maybe in this country. I don't know. And it's the type of thing, I don't know. I'm just saying things. You know, sometimes you say things and it's not like something you tattoo across your chest as, I believe this. You're just saying something like, oh, this is a conversation. I'm saying something right now. You then reply to it. And then maybe I go, oh yeah, I agree with you. And you know, and even if I do agree with you, that doesn't mean a third party couldn't then walk in and say something and go, actually, I agree with him. You know, because we're all figuring it out right now. You haven't got to put someone to the sword for, you know, when it just comes to their mind. You know, but so the reason I say that is because like you might be living in the country with your kids and that, and it's like you got this stress of like, you know, the people knocking on your door to take it all away. I don't know how it works, but maybe if you're living in a spot and you're not in a good place and you're in the favelas, you're not maybe have that stress or fear of someone knocking on your door saying, I'm gonna knock this down or whatever and send you out. I don't know, but I'm saying maybe that's a bit of something. Jin said his scenario was like him and his sister, his mum was on like 12.5 grand a year, which to me, I didn't even know that was, I didn't even like think, obviously you then get like, there must be benefits coming on top of that. And I don't know how expensive things are in Manchester also, I've got to take that into account. But 12.5 grand a year, if you didn't have benefits, which you must have benefits, right? I don't think you could even live in a flat. Well, like my mate lived in a flat share, so like you only have a room, and then your bedroom door has a lock on it, and then it's like a shared kitchen, and that's how most people sort of do it when they move out. Um, and it's like the room is tiny, and you basically end up spending your entire time in the room because you barely even know the other six people living in the house or whatever. And then there's like it's just a whole thing, right? And like I'm pretty sure he was paying a month like 900 quid. I know it's London and everyone's ridiculous, right? But you're paying 900 quid for what is a box room, basically, and then communal bathrooms and whatever. So like 900 quid a year. No, I don't know if that had like overheads in. Let's say it didn't. Let's say it was a grand. Just because it's easier and I like easy maths. Well, that is a month. That is already 12 grand a year just for that one room. And then obviously you got to buy food, and that's just for one person. So then have two kids, there must be benefits on top. And obviously the rent would have to have been lower because that would have been like an actual house with like probably two bedrooms. So yeah, I don't know what the rent's like in thing. And I don't even know how much benefits are. But like also Philly was saying it's like a relative thing. Like I would not say I grew up poor, but like maybe if I grew up in with the same childhood, but I grew up in like Chelsea or Westminster or something, I would have the perception that I did because everyone else was middle class or like upper class, or whatever, and you'd feel that way. I definitely didn't grow up, you know, um, with that kind of. But oh yeah, it can feel, is reductive the right word? Like if you were sitting there and your mum made 12.5 grand a year, and then your mate said to you, "That's not really poor though, is it? Like, it's not really, you're not really struggling, even though you lived your childhood and you knew." Like he said, he had to move out of his mum's house, so his mum downsized, and he moved in with his nan, and that was a whole thing or whatever. It's like you would kind of feel like, I guess I can't, whatever. It is all relative, obviously. It's like it's kind of just like pedantic as well, I guess, in the same way. It's like if you sit there and you go, "Oh, I'm so hungry. I'm starving. I'm starving." And then every single time you say that, someone walks up to you and says, "Oh, all the kids in this country, they're imagine how they feel. Like, come on, mate, have some." You know what I mean? It'd be kind of just like, okay, obviously I'm not, type thing. But obviously Philly was just saying a thing which he immediately was just like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, no, I agree with you." And it's just true. In the same episode, he was talking about how things immediately get clipped up, put on TikTok, and turned into a whole thing. And then yet people, watch the whole podcast, watch him say that, later on hear him say this, and then clip it up. And also, the people who do it are like fans of what they're watching. It's like they enjoy watching it, but they're also like sabotaging the people they enjoy watching. Like, people like watching Angry Ginge, but then they clip up certain things and then they post it to TikTok with like suggestive titles that make him look bad, like a nonce bad, right? And it's like it's like a weird thing. It's like I enjoy watching this person, but I also enjoy getting, and it's not even that much. It'll probably be like 60,000 views on a TikTok. So also, I didn't know the Creator Fund was funding like that because apparently Bevo's making close towards 10k right now off of his TikToks, where he basically, I'm not getting into Bevo right now. That needs its whole own thing. But yeah, this was a bit more of a bit more of a deep ep, a bit more of a poverty, cost of living crisis. That was it really. But all a little bit more open and honest, a bit more adult. Not like that. Not like, and that's another thing I need to talk about, the fucking Twitch policies. But yeah, this was 200. I don't know. I'll see you in the next one. I've got I've got blocked nose. Wow, it all came out just once out then there. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Goodbye.
Here with the kids, and they have like 3 kids, and the geezer was probably on like maximum 20 bags a year. Like the most boring bloke you'll ever meet. Like,